Surely stop sharing.
Just a moment, sir.
Then you can start.
Yes, sir, I am just doing this. Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of IED Communications Limited, organizers of Automation Expo 2021, I am pleased to welcome you to our fifth webinar on the Future Automation Ready webinar series. Today, our topic is talent management in the age of digital transformation. Our speakers are Mr. GNV Subba, Global Head for Quality and Operations Industrial Automation for ABB Global Industries and Services Private Limited. Our second speaker is Mr. Ravi RamaRao, who is the Chief Architect and Trusted Advisor Digital Transformation, and Mr. Rajiv Gupta, Executive Director Technical for Engineers India Limited. And before we start with the webinar, I'd like to take you through a short presentation on what automation is all about. Automation Expo 2021 is about. Well, Automation Expo 2021, the 15th exhibition that will be held from the 22nd to the 25th of September at the Bombay Exhibition Center. So our last show, 2019, clocked in 1,005 exhibiting companies from 25 countries with 625 booths and 37,004 unique visitors and 47,894 visits. Automation 2021 is all about networking, technology, and business growth. And we invite exhibitors, visitors, and delegates to participate. Automation and digitalize is the new mantra in the COVID era. Automation 2021 will be the first exhibition on automation and instrumentation that will be held post-COVID. And this expo will showcase all technologies, products, systems, and solutions that the industry needs. As you see already in this slide, this is the inauguration of Automation Expo 2019 that was inaugurated by Dr. Naushad Forbes, who is the co-chairman and managing director of Forbes Marshall. He is flanked by our board of governors who are major users, consultants, and vendors. It is our privilege that we are supported by the head honchos of the automation as well as the instrumentation industry. And we have more than 43 board of governors who are supporting the Automation Expo. So the next 3 slides will show us all the head honchos who are the automation industry who are with Automation Expo 2021. As you see, we have a steering committee of 7 members in the top line that we see, the 7 board of governors who are meeting every fortnight to see how we can make this what we can do better for this exhibition. As you see the other board of governors, starting with Mr. Ajit Karandikar to Mr. Ashish Manchanda. The second slide, we see our board of governors who comprise of users as well as the manufacturers. And this is our third slide. As you see, we have right from Worli to Dr. Modgare, who is from the Maharashtra Pollution Control Board. So it is our privilege, as I already mentioned, that we have industry stalwarts who choose to associate with automation to make this show, Automation Expo 2021, bigger and better. And today, our topic is talent management. And I would like to call upon our board of governors, Dr. K. Nandkumar, who is a known veteran in the industry, who will be introducing our speakers for the day. And let me introduce Dr. Nandkumar before I hand over to him. Dr. Nandkumar is the founder and the managing director. Founder and managing director of Chemtrols Group. Started in 1975, Chemtrols is India's leading solution provider for chemical and hydrocarbon processing industries and thermal and nuclear power plants. A chemical engineer with specialization in petroleum refining from the University of Kerala. In the year 1970, Dr. Nandkumar worked with Cochin Refineries and FACT, that is the Fertilizer and Chemicals Travancore Limited, before embarking on his entrepreneurial venture, that is Chemtrols. In his highly successful career spanning over 5 decades, he has worked in various functions as diverse as refinery operations, process engineering, process management, sales and marketing, and strategic planning, business development, finance, and corporate management. Over the years, Dr. Nandkumar has set up several diversified and joint venture companies. Dr. Nandkumar is an awarded doctorate in business project management by the European Continental University in the year 2017. He also has been conferred the Lifetime Achievement Award in Process Automation bestowed by Instrumentation Experts Club 2017. He has been awarded the Chemtech CEW Leadership and Excellence Award, Business Leader of the Year 2015. Dr. Nandkumar is involved in various associations as a member of the American Institute of Chemical Engineers for over 35 years, the deputy chairman for the Process Plant Machinery Association of India since 2016. He is also a member of the CII National Council since 2016. He is a member of the FICCI Capital Goods Committee since 2016. He is a member of the Capital Goods Skill Council. Now I invite Dr. Nandkumar sir, and he will introduce our speakers.
Thank you. Thank you, Jyoti.
Thank you, sir.
It's my great pleasure on behalf of Automation and on my own behalf to welcome all speakers and all participants to this webinar on the talent management, especially in the digital worlds. I must say that Automation, especially IED Communication, has done quite a lot of work in developing the automation industry in India, as well as the required skills over the last 20 years. And this webinar session is now for the last 2 months is continuing, and this, I believe, it's a 5th one. So I welcome all participants as well as also the team of IED Communication for hosting this event on a regular basis. Thank you. And it's a great opportunity for our intelligentsia to, as well as the stalwarts in the automation, to come to this platform and also make India the global platform for automation industry. Because in the coming days, India's sustainability depends on India's sustainability depends on going into the global platform through in manufacturing in India, the Atmanirbhar Bharat. And I must say that automation and IED has contributed quite a lot. Thank you very much. And I wish to thank all the speakers, and I would like to introduce the first speaker, Mr. Ravi RamaRao. Ravi RamaRao is having more than 29 years of international experience in connected manufacturing, digital IoT, E2E, enterprise supply chain consultancy to Fortune 100 industrial manufacturing clients. He has got also a lot of accolades, a recent special assignment in India's national expert for MSMEs in Industry 4.0 solutions, worked for Asian productivity organizations, Japan under the auspices of NPC India. Mr. Ravi RamaRao has been the chief architect in the digital transformation, Industry 4.0 and IIoT since 2015 in Robert Bosch, India. He has handled technology, solutions, and business models for smart IoT and digital manufacturing, and more specifically on interoperability. Co-creation and building strong partner ecosystems using multiple technology and unified platforms. Prior to this, Mr. Ravi RamaRao was business leader, manufacturing IT, and plant solutions, Tata Consultancy Service for a period of 10 years from 2005 to 2015. Subsequently, he was handling the manufacturing, design, engineering, build and operate in petrochemicals, oil and gas industries in Yokohama, as well as with Foxborough for the period from 1991 to 2005. He believes the game changers will be in the digital supply chain, E2E, then domain-driven technology platforms, as well as technology enabled and interoperable systems. Mr. Ravi RamaRao also believes the sensors software solutions platform is the way forward. Smart manufacturing, data science, algorithms, and predictive analytics are the areas to invest, the lifelines to remain in the market. Subsequent to Mr. Ravi RamaRao, Mr. Subba will address the address the gathering. Mr. Subba Rao is in his current capacity, is the global head for quality and operations, industrial automation business area in ABB. In this capacity, he is the member of the global leadership team for industrial automation, which is one of the 4 business areas of ABB. In a career spanning almost 3 decades with ABB, Mr. Subba Rao has handled multiple roles, including local business units and divisions in India. In these roles, he has handled units for various products and projects. Later on, Mr. Subba Rao moved into various global leadership roles which covered engineering, operations, research and development, manufacturing, and distribution. The leadership role that GNV has handled includes the following: business unit head for industrial drives, India division head for industrial automation, which included business units addressing industries like metals, mining, cement, pulp and paper, oil and gas, chemicals and product businesses covering industrial control and automation, and industry instrumentation and analytics. Managing Director of ABB Global Industries and Services Private Limited, 100% holding company centered in India. Global Head for Process Control Platform, a unit handling a design, development, manufacture, and support services for all control and automation products for ABB. As you see, Mr. Subba Rao has been all through in the automation and industry field. GNV is an electrical and electronics graduate from UNBC Bangalore and has been a key participant at various international and domestic research events and associations. The third speaker is Mr. Rajiv Gupta. Rajiv Gupta currently today is the Executive Director in Engineers India. He holds BTech in Electronics and Communication from NIT Bhopal in the year 1984. And he is also TUBSIL's Safety Integrity Level Certified Functional Safety Manager. His career graph, he joined Engineers India in the year 1984. So all through the Engineers India, from campus as a management trainee, and presently he is Executive Director. Technically, in a journey of more than 36 years in EIL, he has worked in almost all mega projects for various industries. Maharashtra Gas Cracker Complex in the year 1980, very early 1980s. Neelam Process Complex, UP Petrochemical Complex, HMEL Refinery, Nuclear Industry, NPCL and FC, and overseas projects like Algeria's refineries and KNPC. He has witnessed the development in industry with the pneumatics to DCS, smart, hard-to field bus and wireless. He's also a mastermind in developing many system vendors in India under Make in India policy, like DCS vendors, analyzer system vendors, and system integrators. He's also an active member of BIS on OISD committees. And Engineers India has really contributed to India's growth in instrumentation automation globally. Now, before inviting the speaker, I would like to briefly touch upon the various initiatives government bodies like DHI, Department of Heavy Industries, as well as National Skill Development Corporation has put up for attracting the talent for in digital world, especially in Industry 4.0. Over the last 4 years, a lot of focus has been there in developing in the Industry 4.0 into not only the large industries, but also in MSMEs. And I must say that even with large focused attention for the last 4 years, it is only around 5% of the industry is covered into Industry 4.0. So it's a long way here to go, but I don't say that it's that bad, because when we look at industrialized countries like Japan and Korea, they are also hovering around 15 to 20% only industry is covered into Industry 4.0. So it's we are not that badly off, but we need to focus on the coming years. And there, these seminars will certainly help quite a lot. And from government also, government has given a lot of initiatives into, apart from through DHI, also Skill Development Corporation, they have a special training program from L1 to L10. And L5 is that, I believe L4 or L5 is the one where Industry 4.0 is being focused on. So quite a lot of incentive also is being, we are talking with the government to ensure that MSMEs should get some incentives to get into the Industry 4.0 in the coming years, because industries are healing under negative cash flow. So if they have to put in a lot of investment into digitalization, they need to have a handhold. So we are discussing that. Unfortunately, last year, the pandemic has put certain problems for the government also to fund it, but we are still hopeful that in the coming year, government also will put a lot of program for MSMEs to get into digitalization. So having said that, there are also 6 platforms DHI has put up. One is an ARAI Pune, an IIT Chennai, and also in a couple of other industry associations as well as the institutions. DHI has put up certain platforms where we can certainly take on digitization and also develop our talents within the organization through external agencies. I will certainly give out all those through a separate mail, that those platforms which are available to the industry for developing their talent across the value chain. Having said now, I invite Mr. Ravi RamaRao for his presentation. Over to you, Ravi.
Thank you, Mr. Nandkumar, and thanks the Automation Expo team for giving a wonderful opportunity and a platform to share my thoughts about the talent management in the digital transformation area. Do you all see my screen? Hopefully it's visible.
We can see, sir.
Okay. So the structure for the conversation, I have kept it very simple. The manufacturing evolution and the philosophies. Manufacturing is one of the oldest industries, and the philosophies also, evolved over a period of time. And the digital organization and the persona. When you look at the digital world, how the organizations are taking shape, and the skills, the talents, what kind of talents we are getting in, and what we need to focus, the employee experience, and in a short conclusion, what it means. If you look at the manufacturing and the workforce, the evolution started broadly, into these 4 areas. That is the first period is about 1760 to the 1840s, where a lot of mining, like all those Mackina's gold kind of stuff, they were going in for the go west and get the precious metals. So mining was one of the oldest things. We had dangerous conditions, low wages and long hours. Next, mechanization had started, 1870s to 1914. We had no differentiation with respect to the labor force. The child labor was also heavily used. There was differential pay and then heavy pollution. In 1950s to today, it is all with OSHA, knowledge society, better wages and better working conditions. This is what we are currently experiencing. How does the future look like? The future is going to be humans and robots, the cobots, what they call, and it is an era of creativity, and it is going to be an era of customer experience. We are experiencing, all of us, in small ways through the Amazons and the Netflix, in terms of what customer experience is all about and how these companies are focusing about. More and more of these are going to happen in the future. While the manufacturing evolved in a particular fashion, the philosophies also evolved over a period of time. If you look at the very old saying, the scientific management Frederick Taylor, he says, hardly a competent workman can be found who does not devote a considerable amount of time to studying just how slowly he can work and still convince his employer that he is going at a good pace. So this is the level of mistrust the management and the workforce they had. The management did not have a confidence in the workforce. If you ask me, do we have it now? Totally. We may not have, but in those days, it was completely not there. Steve Jobs' era was is about persuading people to do things they do not want to do, while leadership is about inspiring people to do things they never thought they could. So the Apple is the most valued company in the world, and they are known for their creativity and their way of doing things very, very differently. That was another era. I just picked up some icons to tell how the perceptions about managing the workforce had come. And the present day leader, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, the best customer service, if the customer doesn't need to call you, doesn't need to talk to you, it just works. So you can see how it has evolved. You don't have to talk. If the customer is not going to call you, they say that, it just works. So when you really look at it, it was a worker, and then from there it was a manager, and then it was a partner. That is how the workforce has evolved. How the future organizations are going to be looking like. The key beliefs, they will have some high value, trust and transparency. They will expect instant gratification and continuous engagement. These are the millennials. We are seeing a lot of them already into the workforce, and they look for that kind of an instant gratification. This is the era of emojis. They don't want to talk, they want to chat, and for anything and everything they look for appreciation, and they look for continuous engagement, and they are heavily individualistic. So they look for personalization, convenience and flexibility. So this present generation, they look for a lot of flexibility. We are seeing a lot of young entrepreneurs and young companies. The imperative motto of digital disruption is going to be anytime, anywhere. These are all happening. So what is the need that we are going to be focusing? Like what Jeff Bezos has said, frictionless transactions with their customers. So when I say customers, I include even the employees in an organization, one-to-one. All these people are also customers. So we need to ensure there is less amount of friction or no friction. How do the people, the persona, the workforce are going to look like? If you see that, you are again, these things are all not something alien. These are all happening. We can see people in the airport. It's on the GoPro. You've got a corridor warrior. You'll see people who are there in the coffee shops, and there are people who prefer to work from desks, and there are people who work remote. Now huge amount of the world's working population is working from home thanks to the pandemic. And then we also have some specialized users. So this is, you can further classify them. So I just picked up broadly into these 5 categories. So the workforce is going to be diverse and divergent. And most effectively, they are going to be freelancers, consultants, part-time workers, remote workers, side hustlers, and also entrepreneurs. You're going to have a huge mix of all these things. So the organizations are going to be having this versatility in the workforce, which is very, very good because it brings in colorful ideas, a lot of creativity and openness. It will also bring many challenges. So what are the kind of challenges, that we are going to be really facing? When we are having this much amount of versatility in the workforce, to provide them systems, to protect the IP, and to bring the brand's values and the organization's beliefs, the philosophies and the processes and systems of an organization, how are you going to enforce, even enforce is a wrong choice of word from me, how are we going to make them believe? These are all something which is very, very important, when you are going to be working for a particular organization. So that's the biggest challenge the organizations will be facing. So these are some of the great men, they have what they have said about it. If everyone is thinking alike, then No one is thinking. Benjamin Franklin. Abdul Kalam has said, you cannot change your future, but you can change your habits, and surely your habits will change your future. If everyone has to think outside the box, maybe it is the box that needs fixing. I think that is a very close one, we are looking at. So the need is the power of letting go. We have so far used holding on to a lot of things. The future is going to let go many things and focus on the things which one should really focus. This is the Gartner's hype cycle for human capital. It talks about various things in terms of how the human resources are going to be coming into picture. You can see quite a lot of things are already happening. Consumer HR apps, voice of the employee, unified multi-country payroll, that still we are a bit away. Next-gen workforce management, mid-office and back office. So quite a bit of things are already there in place. Video recruiting is also happening thanks to the pandemic, though they have said that it is at least 2 to 5 years, but it is already happening. Machine learning in HCM, employee wellness, and cloud HCM suits and talent management suits. These are all a bit far away. So when we are going to come up with such a kind of versatile workforce, we need to be digitally competent. We have to be tech savvy. We have to be agile. We have to be faster in decision-making process. Most importantly, the HR shall become the centerpiece of the digital enterprise. Even now, HR is the centerpiece, but in the digital enterprise, they will be the ones who will literally drive this. And conventional HR policies will also get transformed into digital, and they will be using a lot of data science, and they will have to be dealing with contracts in terms of flexibility, in terms of location, and how they are going to protect the legal and intellectual content. So they have to be extremely dynamic. So that is the fantastic future the HR in the world is going to be experiencing. So data driven from onboarding to retirement. Even now you can see people are being given a farewell through Zoom calls. So the HR is going to transform itself, and a lot more data scientists and computer engineers with heavy programming and data science knowledge with HR specializations will play a significant role in shaping the organizations of the future. So building smart partners, you have to create that kind of an employee experience. It's very, very challenging. So how are we going to really be engaging the workforce, which will be scattered all over the world and in different types and with different persona? So we need to have fast processes, and also you have to have some face-to-face interaction. So this is all, thoughts I have shared, but to put it into action, a lot of thinking needs to be there. And the gamification, these present day millennials, they are so hooked on to different kinds of lifestyle. So gamification is going to play a big role, and skills are coming up and disappearing at a rapid pace. So rapid skill development is going to be a big challenge. Training and certification. So how are you going to do that? So it will be more that who is going to provide is going to be irrelevant. How well that institute is really coaching the people, and so that you can accept those kind of certifications will also become very, very key. And it will be highly customized in terms of the needs of the individual, and also it needs to be aligned with the organizational goals. And building organizational culture, goals, and performance evaluation, rewards and incentives, all are going to go for a huge, huge change. Strengthening leadership and creativity, you have to have cognitive solutions, design thinking processes, And then promoting leadership, ownership, and self-sufficiency. This much amount of work needs to be achieved. It's going to be very, very, very interesting, years to come. But when I'm going to say this is my last slide, well, I talked about a lot of things. In my thinking, these things are going to play fantastic roles. You're going to look at the attitude a lot more closely, and data science will play a key role in picking up the attitude of the person from various social media things besides his resume and besides the face-to-face interaction. Then you will look at the aptitude, and perhaps the skills will come a little lower, because you will be more and more worried and concerned when the resources are going to be working from anywhere and no face to the work. You will really look at the core values and the ethics. So attitude is going to play a very, very big role. So with it, I just conclude my talk, how it is going to be the talent management in the digital transformation era. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi RamaRao. That was a fantastic presentation. And we now invite Mr. GNV Subba.
Yeah, just give me a minute, Jyoti. I'll try to share my presentation.
Yes, sir.
Anything visible on the screen now?
It's visible. You just have to come on
Yes,
slideshow mode.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, so let's start. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining in. And I would like to thank the Automation Expo Group for giving me this opportunity to share some of my ideas with all of you. And remember, this is an exchange of ideas, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of feedback, questions, and we could deal with this subject. It's a very interesting subject.
Please, please switch on your video, sir.
I probably would skip that because I have some network issues here, so it's slowing down things. So if it's okay, can we manage with my voice and the slide?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
please carry.
Yeah. So what is the subject that we're talking about today? It's as we all know, talent management, and with another thing which comes in, that is the digital transformation, as to how this is affecting each other. In fact, it does affect each other. So let's take a look at basically what talent management means for an organization. I'm specifically talking about talent management from an organization's perspective. It's probably many definitions. One of the definitions could be the science of looking at the organization future, planning for it, strategic planning, and then trying to understand how the talent requirement would pan out to be, and then plan to recruit, train, and develop the talent pool so that the contribution, the proper contribution towards the strategy is happening. Another way of looking at it, inside out, from a talent point of view, would be to use what you already have, human resources, to improve the business value output of the organization. So two ways of looking at it. But one or two things that comes out very clearly is that there should be perfect alignment between these two strategies: the business strategy and the HR strategy. They can't be tangential to each other or differing from each other. So that's very important, and we'll take a look at how that pans out for organizations. So essentially, this is what it is, talent management. And very importantly, at the centerpiece is how we link the business strategy and the strategy for talent management very clearly. So having said this, let's look at what the digital transformation has been doing to the traditional, I would say, way of looking at talent management. So when I talk about traditional way of looking at talent management, what is it? So essentially, it can be called even strategic workforce planning. It is to assess our requirements and the talent pool, accordingly have a plan, recruit people, but very importantly also develop, because you can never be sure that what you recruit would be able to is perfectly aligned. They are perfectly aligned with your strategies from day one. So you'll have to do some sort of training development and also try and retain. Now, when I talk about retain, let me tell you, the retaining strategy doesn't mean that you have, in today's world, it doesn't mean that you get in a person and then he retires in your organization. Maybe for some organizations it is ideal, but what I have discovered these days is there are many organizations whose strategies on talent differs. While there are organizations which prefer this, that they should have somebody who would start with them after college and retire with them. There are many organizations which actually strategize around having people only for a few years. So they differ from organization to organization. So this is what I spoke about. Clearly state what your strategy is, a business strategy, and align your HR strategy with the to match your business strategy. And of course, a very important part of all this would be how you reward in order to retain. So this is how I would look at the complete cycle of talent management. There are many other things here and there, but this would constitute the main parts of talent management. So this we take a look at, because many things change over time, but this is something which cannot change. This is in a way core for talent management. The envelopes on this, the many things which come over this might change over time, but the core remains what it is. So now we talk about how talent management is getting affected by the new digital era. Now, we all know what digital era is. We know, some of us probably know it more than a few others. But then I don't think there could be anybody who doesn't know or who's not affected by the digital transformation that's happening in the industry, in society, but let's say in mankind, in general. So it's sort of affecting, touching everyone. So we're all aware of it. So what has it done for the major part of the talent in the organizations? So the primary, I would say, trigger for these discussions would be, what does it do for the employees? And it's very clear, I won't talk about it more, you know it, I know it, that the choice of that is in front of the employees have sort of multiplied. They have a number of choices now. They have a huge amount of tools and platforms that they can make use and move around from company to company very easily. So that is something which is there to be seen. So that's a very clear aspect of this change which has happened due to digital. What does this mean to companies? Of course, for the employees, it means that there are many choices. So he can look around, and it's much easier to get into a new job or to get into something that you like when compared to earlier days. But for companies, it puts a lot of stress. The companies are already today, the organizations are under stress, because what they have to produce as products and services is itself being challenged. It's a lot different from what it used to be earlier. That is one of the challenges that organizations have. But on top of it today, because of the impact of digitalization on the talent management, others in general, it's an additional problem or additional pressure that the companies have, that they have to do that much more to retain people, motivate people to remain with them. And remember, what happens in a company with respect to the employees is so much more open these days. So that brings in additional pressure. This means that special attention has to be paid by the companies, by the organizations, on how they focus on developing, motivating, and retaining their employees. It's a huge part now of the organization. And I mean the organization, not just the HR, because today's world, I don't think talent management is the job of the HR alone. It is the job of every manager, every person in the organization. So that's how it is sort of developed. So how do we do this? I mean, how do we see this pressure on the organizations? How are they handling it? And what could be the strategies that they could adopt in order to deal with that? While there is pressure, while there is a lot of demands, there's also a lot of help that the organizations are receiving in the form of digital tools, digital processes, which makes to to a large extent, managing talent much easier than what it used to be earlier. There are a host of digital technologies and tools that help the organization to keep pace with the demands. And that's how it's in a way balancing out that you have pressure, but at the same time, you have a lot of positives coming from the digital era, which helps the organization to deal with these pressures and maybe even thrive under these, conditions of pressure. Because any good organization would study very clearly what the demands are and find out how clear ways of dealing with pressure. And if it's a good organization, they always find ways to deal with this. So one very good asset that a good organization has would be the digital technologies itself. So on one hand, it's putting a lot of pressure on organization. On the other hand, it provides a lot of tools and processes to deal with this pressure. So what do I mean? I mean, this is the sum up of what we probably spoke about or what we're going to speak about. So what can it enable in the area of developing, motivating, and retaining? I'm not talking about recruitment because that is something that could be too much to deal with this in this session. So there are huge opportunities today to accurately identify strengths and improvement areas of employees. Was it there earlier? Yes. Is it here today? Yes. So what's the difference? I'll come to the differences later. Then there's also ability to ensure that based on what studies we make about improvement areas and strengths, there are very clear tools and processes that would guide companies and organizations to deal with that, take advantages of the strengths of the people, at the same time, work towards sort of narrowing the weaknesses that the employees have or the gaps in the skill sets. Then based on this, so much of data is generated that you can also charter very clearly the careers of people that you choose to. So that's another huge opportunity. Now, we spoke about the differences. Did they exist in the past? Yes, we also used to do it in the past, 20 years back, 10 years back, 30 years back. But so what's the difference? I think generally in life today, if there is a difference between what happens today and maybe yesterday, that's how the dynamic the world is. So that's how dynamic the world is. But let's say what's the difference between today and let's say 10 years back? I would say a few things makes a huge difference. One is access to data. And access to data or continuous data, not even discrete data. You can get data which is which has a gap of milliseconds continuously for many months and years, and that comes quite easy. So access to data is huge. Storage of data, you can store this data, very difficult in the past, but very easy to store, very cheap to store data today. And then you have such powerful microprocessors which can process the data and give you almost instant updates on what's happening. So if you apply the same things to the HR talent world, huge opportunities open up. You can get data about people, of course, provided the people are willing to part with their data. You can store them, analyze them, and help the resources and help the companies in that process to sort of motivate, develop oneself. So this is the basic difference. While we used to do this in the past, probably it was a little bit subjective. Probably it was a little bit, or not a little bit, it used to be inaccurate. Now it is more objective, can be very accurate, can be very live in the sense that it can be updated very frequently. And that's a valuable, huge opportunity for companies to be almost on an everyday basis, analyzing the situation and providing the proper interventions to get things right or to improve on what we already have. So this, I think, is a main difference. So what we have been doing in the past, we do it today, but we do it probably with the new digital tools. And in many ways, while they do have their drawbacks, it's a lot of positives that they provide for us and for the company. So that's the way I would probably look at it. So let's take some examples now. Digital psychology tests. Psychology tests have been in vogue for many years. Today we do it, but it is so objective, so much based on data that the confidence that the companies have and the employees have on the results is multifold than what it used to be earlier. So it is fast, it's very accurate. So this is one example of what it is today as different from what it was in the past. Now let's look at, having identified these improvement areas, these gaps. What do we do? What does a company do to to get better results for themselves? What does the company do to keep the employee motivated? What does the company do to equip to equip the employee in such a way that he performs better at his job, he's more satisfied, and he probably earns more than what was possible earlier? So many tools are there. One basic thing, of course, would be to train. We all know how important the training part is for every individual and for companies. What used to be a big affair of getting people, transporting them to a big classroom from different parts of a city or even different parts of a country, sometimes different parts of the world, arrange for trainers and physical equipments to be trained, today can be done remotely. It doesn't need all this sort of paraphernalia activities, which used to cost a lot in money. It used to cost a lot in time, but also logistics efforts. All that is eliminated today. It's a complete sort of, I would say, seamless sort of a thing that we can do remotely. And I can tell you from my organization, thanks to pandemic, we've been doing a lot of things in the last 1 to 2 years. And to our surprise, we see that what we used to do earlier is perhaps improved. We do much more, but in a much reduced cost with much less efforts. And all of you know about it, so I won't elaborate on it. But then it is just to bring in focus on these things that are possible today. Then training doesn't mean just classroom training. Today, it can be an AR and VR based training, which makes it so real. So when I talk about training, it is not just lecturing that I'm talking about. So a person sitting, let's say in the US or maybe somewhere in Australia could log in into a classroom in Bangalore or UK, and not only does he get to hear an instructor, but he gets to actually play around or experiment with the equipments that are in Bangalore remotely. Or you don't even need physical equipment. You have simulated images or equipment that is as real as the physical thing, and you can do everything that you could possibly do on that physically. So not only is it just listening to some lessons, but ability to experiment and carry out all that you in today's language, ability to play around with the equipment that is offered today. Ravi spoke about gamification. It's very popular here. There's a lot of overlap between AR, VR based training and gamification, but that's another popular thing that happens. Simulation. We used to have simulations earlier too. There's no doubt, but the level of sophistication that these tools offer today, simulation tools, is unimaginable. I mean, you just sit and let's say you want to get trained as a pilot, you just get into the thing, and then you feel every bit of vibration that possibly can occur on an aircraft, and then it's not just random. It could be related to so many things, which makes you really feel the real situation that happens there. So that's the amount of sophistication that all this can happen, and this is possible because I'm very clear about it. When you make a study, it's only possible because of, as I said earlier, data storage, and very clearly our ability to process data at super speeds. And the microprocessors are so powerful today that they can do anything of this very soon. I mean, very quickly, very dynamically. So when you look at all these things, as I said earlier, there are huge amount of pressures that the digital technology has brought in onto organization. At the same time, it has given huge opportunities through tools and processes to do something more, something different, something more, I would say, productive for the employees, to keep them motivated, to keep them up to date with the latest technologies and performing at a very high level. So this would be what I would have to say in a short time that I have. And please treat this as discussions that would simulate or stimulate some thoughts. But I can tell you that having experimented with these sort of technologies, which go beyond, of course, managing talents, managing people, into much more deeper things, I think this is the way to go. I don't even think it's an option, and most people will have to do this, or sort of not exist and perish. And having said all this, I would like to leave you all with a thought which is random in nature, but maybe, as I said, can give rise to some other interesting thoughts. And that is, just think about what happened in the last 2 centuries. Huge amount of progress on the technology side, huge amount of progress on building of improving lifestyles, a number of inventions and discoveries. And you talk about things that have been invented and discovered, and every bit of it has gone to improve our lives. It could be a bulb, it could be vaccinations, it could be penicillin, it could be discoveries like theory of relativity, gravity, so many things. But very, very importantly, each of these inventions and discoveries have been associated with a name. Talk about the bulb, it is Thomas Alva Edison. Talk about gravity, it is Einstein, and so on and so forth. I mean, Newton, and so on and so forth. But that's what it is. So you had discoveries and inventions always associated with a superhuman effort by a genius. Now, take today's world, or take the last 40, 50 years, it is sort of given and accepted fact that the discoveries and the inventions and the progress that we have made is perhaps exponentially higher than what it was in the previous decades. So probably people debate whether it's 5x or 10x or more than that. But whatever it is exponentially higher than what it used to be earlier. But have you ever wondered how many names are there behind these discoveries? I don't, I mean, logically speaking, if you go as per what we have now as progress, as discoveries, inventions, we should have hundreds and thousands of names that should be famous, like these famous geniuses that we had in the past. I don't see them. I don't hear of them. Why is it? Is it because we have somehow managed to put, let's say, 10 Einsteins together, or maybe one Einstein and one Newton and somebody else together to get what we want at 10 times faster rates than what it used to be earlier? And when I think about it, when I debate this with my mentors and my peers, I think there's a unanimous decision saying that this is possibly the reason as to why we see so much of progress, how we see it so easily done, how we see it so quickly done. At the same time, you don't have these big single heroes who have done this. So it is a collective effort. And what fostered this? What enabled this? Is it really something that we managed to pull people from physically from wherever they were and put them in an office room or a hotel and got them to do things? Or is it that the digital technologies, the ability to be wherever we want, whenever we want, and with whosoever we want across the globe, is that what fostered all these things? And is this the end of this? Can it be much higher as we go along? I think this is something that we all have to think about. And to me, this is very profound. And this opens up huge opportunities. We possibly haven't spent enough of time realizing the potential of this. And that, to me, would be a single most important takeaway as far as any discussion on digital technologies affecting the talent goes. So huge opportunities. Are we up to it? Can we put our heads together, put all our, and create these super Einsteins and multiple Einsteins and Newtons? It's left to us. So let's do that. I would leave this thought with you as I end my talk on digital technologies affecting talent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Subba. Well explained. Fully agree with what you have said. In fact, I would say today the financing agencies evaluating a proposal for a new capital investment on a project, they look at what are the investments planned for talent management.
Yeah.
And in that talent management, they also look beyond what we say that the employee management and the innovations. They also look at what is the succession planning for the organization. So to that extent, the financing agencies have gone into talent management. So I am sure the coming years, every organization, whether small or large, have to focus on talent management and succession planning right from the day one they are looking for setting up a plant or managing that. Thank you.
Mr.
Having said this,
thank you.
Having said this, I invite Mr. Rajiv Gupta, who has spent nearly 4 decades in the Indian industry, developing MSMEs to large corporates to make India. Because 40 years ago, when a refinery was set up here, it was only 10% of the equipments were purchased in India. Today, nearly 80% or nearly 90% of the equipments are purchased in India. So, a lot of I would say credit goes to Engineers India and the people behind. So, with this, I invite Mr. Rajiv Gupta. Rajiv, over to you.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you remove the share, please? The previous presentation
Subba?
share should be sharing the screen should be removed.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah.
I'll do that. Digital technology is giving me some trouble now. Sorry about this. I'll give me a minute. Is this okay, Mr. Gupta?
No, not yet. It is still there.
Okay. Still there.
Now?
Yes.
Thank you, and sorry for missing out on that.
Namaskar, everybody. I am Rajiv Gupta at AIL New Delhi, and I really thank Automation Expo for giving me an opportunity to share my thought, as well as my previous speakers, to have set the tone and having spoken most of the things. I will like to speak in a slightly different context, that is the digitization, and during this pandemic situation, what was the role of digitization or the need of digitization in actually specifically the hydrocarbon industry, refineries, and the consultancy industry, which I come from. So I would like to remember the last year, actually just around this time, maybe March last year, when we were suddenly hit by the pandemic. We all were not aware as to what is going to happen and what has really hit us. And suddenly we found that we are locked down, which was not really anticipated by anybody. Now, this sudden disruption in the work has happened, and it has taken, sudden disruption in the operations. So now how to continue the operations which we were doing, and how to really, look further, that was the real challenge. Suddenly, we all realized the importance of digitization and the digital workflow, because now we are removed from our office, we are removed from our workplaces, or we are trapped in our workplace, and then how suddenly what to do? We were not ready. Now, right from the, whether my office, the computer is left in my office, and then in my office, the power is off, or in my office, the net is not working. Suddenly, I want that somebody should be there who can switch on my laptop or my desktop into the remote mode so that I can do something. This all kind of problems came, and which were solved by one by our, security people, our IT people, and all such people. Then later on, we realized that there is so many things are possible with remote working. Like we can do the remote monitoring, we can do the remote inspection, we can even do the remote site assistance, commissioning assistance. We can talk to our domain expert, OEMs, and other things, other people on the digital methods. That is our this video conferencing methods and other things. And of course, we can do a lot of training in the remote mode and digital mode. But also we realize that there are certain limitations in this remote working. It's not that it is all fine, then why do we have the conventional method? We could have continued with the remote working forever. But certain things are really actually impossible to work in the remote method. Like say the operation activity and the construction activities, which are very vital part of the industry, and the manufacturing activities, they will require a physical presence of a certain minimum number of people. So many other things, though they can be done remotely, but maybe they cannot be done in the best way remotely, because there will be a lack of visualization. There will be a lack of focus over the long period of time if we are trapped in our homes. And also there will be a need for physical verification and physical inspection in certain things. Like when I am doing my remote inspection of the equipment, there could be a possibility that I cannot fully visualize, or I cannot fully see everything, or even I don't believe this is also possible. So what is the long-term effect of, also there was a long-term impact on the psychological well-being of the people. For a long time when we are working from home, there will be a psychological impact because our life itself has been planned on, going out. We have to go out for getting our, maybe for doing some trade. We have to go out for earning our employment. And we have to even go out for our psychological well-being and our physical well-being. Then if we look at the scenario for the youngsters or the new joinees, so then in the absence of, lack of role model, the lack of peer group learning, the lack of social and psychological learning, the lack of training, silent and lateral training, which we get from the people who are working around us. See, when a new person is joining an industry fresh from the college or institution, he doesn't have the idea of the work culture at all. So then how does he know really if he is straight away going into the remote working? So this will be another problem which we will be facing. So now what is the best case scenario which we will look at? Probably what we have realized in our actual working is that the hybrid scenario will be the best scenario. Certain people will have to really work at the sites or in the offices. And some people will have to, everybody will have to work some percentage of time at the actual place. So now working from home could become working from near home actually. So you could have some kind of working centers which are near your home and a group of people are working there. And then on need basis, they are interacting with the other group of people working and they are doing this, kind of travel or interaction on a limited basis. So obviously our workplaces will also undergo a change. Maybe the type of workplace we have today and the type of, canteens we have or the type of other infrastructures we have or the say auditoriums we have may have to undergo a change because people may not look at so many people gathering or coming there. So we will also have to look at the decongestion of the workplaces because the pandemic has taught us that social distancing is required, but not everywhere. Like say public conveyance, we don't have the provisions of social distancing. In so many other places, even in our office reception areas or in certain canteens or certain such pantry areas, again in the lifts, in the receptions, we didn't have really the proper provisions for social distancing if we look at the whole scale operations. That means our workplaces will have to undergo a change. Probably if we say that the model is that few people have to work then the full strength, then probably this will work. Even the homes will undergo a change because if I have a family of 3 or 4 people, all the people are working or studying from home, then you need a different kind of infrastructure. Even you need probably a different kind of home because not all homes are equipped with so many digital appliances and the places for isolation of the people on and during the whole workday, as well as so many other things will be coming up which will be difficult to manage if we are continuously working from home. This is over and above the psychological aspects which I mentioned before. So now we suddenly realize that during the this period that during the days of less travel, we definitely have to rely on full scale digitization. Now this is a big opportunity which was always there, but its need has been emphasized like never before. What is actually the digitization? Every person has their own ideas. Just for simplicity, I would like to say, when we started the automation, say earlier we used to have analog sensors. We used to have even pneumatic sensors. Then from there, we came to digital control systems. Digital control systems came before the digital sensors because when we are processing multiple signals and the conventional control panel, the size used to become very large. If I am having 1000 inputs, in my control system, then I will have 1000 display units also. And it will be physically impossible for an operator to manage. So we started with the digital control systems. Then ultimately we came to digital sensors and transmitters also, and digital transmission networks. Now this digital transmission and digital control systems started the era of automation of operations. That is, even the set points are generated automatically. But when we started digital communication systems also, we realized that a lot of power is available in the processing of in the field instruments as well as in the control systems. So we can utilize the systems not only for the process variable transmission, but also for the diagnostics transmission. This started the era of what we call the predictive maintenance. So what is a smart instrument or a smart system? A smart instrument or a smart system is one which can have a self-diagnostic. That means if the system is not working fine, this will declare itself that, okay, there are some problems. So what are the problems? What are the failures? Whether the communication is not okay, whether the calibration is not okay, whether some channel of IO has gone bad, whether power supply is not available, whether grounding is not okay. All those things are automatically transmitted and the status are available remotely. So this is now the foray into the preventive and predictive maintenance. That is what has led to, this opportunity now that other than the operation, we can also have a lot of data about the maintenance or the preventive maintenance. Not only for the transmitters, we can look at our plant and assets in terms of, you see, a tank, a compressor, a column, or extruder, or things like that. So now what is my diagnostic information available around these things? Even you see the foundations, the buildings, they can have a lot of predictive information available. That is what, today when we are doing a project, we are using a lot of digital technology in our projects. EIL is always in the forefront of latest technology. So we are having the state-of-the-art DCS and ESD system, asset management systems, condition monitoring systems, operator training simulators, virtualization servers. Now we are also implementing IIOT, that is for pump seal monitoring, rotating equipment monitoring, PSVs and flare leak monitoring. Now we are using even the cloud-based simulations for plant graphics, logics and testing of DCS. Use of RFID cards, use of smart cards, biometrics are always now becoming very common. And the digitization is not only limited to my plants or my production units. Even there is a lot of digitization in the workflow itself. AL is contributing towards end-to-end digital workflow. The data from smart PNIDs is flowing into the data sheets. Then we are making the 3D model of the plant, which is used for engineering as well as for maintenance. Then even the licensor information, the supplier and end user information is now digitally integrated. No more the time that I will read a document in a hard copy. All our e-procurements are and drawing reviews are on portal-based system. For DCS and system engineering, we are even using many of the electronic documents where the information is exchanged in the system itself and nobody has to recreate the document. So that means a lot of digitization is already there. And now we need to look at what are the gaps in this. Even EIL has been continuously engaged in, Make in India initiatives, which Sri Nandkumar ji mentioned during my introduction. And this has also proved very important. In fact, the thrust on this is increased. Our Prime Minister has given us a slogan of Atmanirbhar Bharat, because when you realize the sudden pandemic has disrupted the value chain and the supply chains all around the world, suddenly there was a feeling that we probably need to look inwards. We need not look 100% inwards. I don't say that globalization is dead, but there is a relook into it. What should be the optimum which we have to manufacture nearby? And in that sense, the domestic manufacturing and development has become very important. We have always been creating, engineering specifications, testing requirements. We have been hand-holding the various domestic vendors. We have been helping the big vendors to settle shops in India. We start taking their services and supplies into our projects, and then they become almost like independent of their global OEMs and become a one-stop solution. Also, we have developed many system integrators, many turnkey contractors, and not to mention our homegrown domestic manufacturers. They are not even supplying in our projects, but even they are able to internationalize with our efforts. So what should be the way ahead in this scenario is what I feel that first and foremost is the better utilization of all the facilities. We are having many facilities in our plants, in our home, which we are not fully utilizing. We read many articles which say that out of the total capability of, say, Windows software, which we everyday use, hardly 5 or 6% is being utilized. Similarly, in our plants, we are having many systems where the complete system engineering is not done, complete configuration is not done, or it has been done, but it has not been upgraded. So it is, vulnerable to cyber threats and other things when we are talking about the connected world. So that is why I feel that the synergy of stakeholders is very important. All our end users, consultants, system suppliers should come together. Role of supplier is not even, doesn't end with the supplies. Role of suppliers is extending into the post-warranty maintenance contracts, also the state-of-the-art upkeep and upgrade of the systems, cybersecurity challenges, and importance of digital stakeholders is even increasing in this kind of thing. So what we personally feel actually is that we should now reach to the uncharted territory. The uncharted territory is those parts of my plant or my production unit which are not yet automated, which do not have the additional data available, or even if the data is available, it is not being transported. So that means it is working in some kind of a silo. As I mentioned before, for example, we have a lot of diagnostics and signal transmission for the transmitters, maybe for the compressors also, but we don't have that for the heat exchangers. We don't have that for tanks or vessels. We have a lot of automation in control valves, but none in the safety valves. And even, the foundations of our buildings or industrial installations or industrial institutions can have a lot of diagnostics regarding the vibrations, regarding the moisture monitoring. These things will go a long way in, upkeep of those things. Similarly, if all these sensors are properly connected through a wireless network or through internet to this various OEMs or domain experts, it will help in having very good preventive maintenance. It will help in getting additional data which could be hooked up to various systems, and then it will be available to me for my remote working. So that means we will come back to the same where we started, that there will be no sudden disruption in our operations, and we will have this choice of either working remotely or going to the place and working ourselves. So there will be a combination of these two things. So I personally feel that the digitization is a big opportunity, and now we must all, with full force, we should go further in digitization. It will help us in not only increasing the productivity of our operations, also will prepare us for this kind of eventualities which we all were facing. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. You have really brought out a new challenge, especially in talent management, when you are having a large area of remote working. And in that connection, you also brought out what are the challenges in having the predictive and preventive maintenance, as well as the whole spectrum of operation remotely. I fully agree that is going to be the future, because, and certainly we have to look at how we handle the talent management in those areas, which especially on the service, after sales service, as well as the operational and comprehensive operational maintenance. One area which probably is opening up also, or which will come, or rather many people might not have, or maybe some might have thought about, is all these remote management, remote monitoring, remote maintenance, as well as the remote servicing also opportunities, is talking of why not goods as a source, goods as a service. That means a manufacturer install the equipment at site, the project developer does not buy. He only gives to the manufacturer the usage in terms of the data or in terms of the hours the equipment is driving. Probably that is the area which is going to come when the large projects, high volume projects will be there. Each one will ask them to set up their own manufacturing plant or their own equipments in the site, manage it remotely, and give the data for which they pay. Probably that's some areas which I heard might be coming up in the coming days. So naturally, the talent management in remote area is not conventional. It is absolutely non-conventional. It is all specific area, and also specific in terms of the IPR, intellectual property management. That's one great challenge which will come, and of course also the organization's succession management will come. Having said, I think that in the digital world, the talent management is certainly going to be a big challenge, big opportunity as well as challenge, and it is not it's stationary. It is a continuous innovation which will take place. And if you really look at the human resources, the genesis, we look at earlier, it was administration, personnel management, personnel and administration, then became HR management, now remote management. So the genesis will certainly move away from really from only the today what we look at, or what we are looking at from the digitization to I would say to encompass the whole set of operations, which will beyond your specialization. You need to have the talents acquired and managed. So it's going to be a big challenge for the industries, especially for large projects or continuous process industries, which are of global capacities to look at and manage. But given that opportunities, and I'm sure the availability of the technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and related robotics, etc., certainly also give a lot of support in that in the talent management. Thank you. I must say that we have got quite a lot of learning from these presentations. Thank each of the presentations, Mr. Ravi, Subba Rao, as well as Mr. Gupta. Now over to Jyoti. Jyoti, please.
Thank you, Nandkumar sir. And now we would have the Q&A session. So I would like to now invite Dr. VP Raman, who will be handling the Q&A session. I'd like to introduce Dr. VP Raman. Dr. VP Raman is a postgraduate in instrumentation engineering and has over 40 years of experience with various engineering consultancy companies, EPCs, and end users in areas like oil and gas, petrochemicals, fertilizers, refineries, cross-country pipelines, polyester waste, and wastewater. So he has a wide exposure in feed and basic and detailed engineering, procurement, project management, construction, and commissioning. He has expertise in managing the total engineering and project cycle, covering all engineering disciplines using latest software tools, and has traveled worldwide on project assignments. He has worked with reputed organizations like Uday, ADNOC, Chemtech Engineering, Chemtrols, Mott MacDonald, Tecton Engineering. He holds a very senior responsible position as an engineering consultant with other companies also. He is associated with major associations like ISA, IEC, IED. He has been the past district vice president for District 14 of ISA, actively involved with ISA Maharashtra, and he is associated with ISA for various standard and practices committee. He is a recipient of the Excellence in Enduring Service Award from ISA USA in the year 2018, and has published several technical articles in reputed magazines like Control Engineering, Automation World, Intech, and not to mention the IAD's Industrial Automation. I'd also like to tell you that he's on the steering committee for automation. So Dr. Raman, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Jyoti. Thanks for the grand introduction. Now it is my duty to keep up the reputation. Now, before we go into the detail, I wish to, on behalf of IED, I take this opportunity to thank Mr. Nandkumar for setting this interesting topic on course and sharing the valuable information like the various initiatives from the government and industries. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You are audible.
Yeah. As Mr. Nandkumar is associated with various industries, even with CII in the various senior capacities, his perspectives are very important and very valuable. I would also like to thank our esteemed speakers, Mr. GLV Subba Rao from ABB, Mr. Rajiv Gupta from EIL, and Mr. Ravi RamaRao from Bosch for sharing their valuable information on talent management. In today's new world order, talent management plays a vital role, especially with regard to recruitment and retention of manpower for any organization. And today, the speakers have shared their insights in these core areas, not to mention in detail about the digitalization. Now, without wasting much time, I would like to take up the question and answer session, and I would request the speakers to explain their perspective to the various questions that are received. Before I start off with Q&A session, I would like to once again thank all the speakers and delegates. And to all the delegates who have posted the question, we will try to cover the questions to the extent possible. However, if for some reason, due to the paucity of time, if the questions are unanswered, we will request our speakers for the response and will revert back on the email IDs provided. So, Mr. Subba Rao, Mr. Rajiv Gupta, and Mr. Ravi, and Mr. Nandkumar, can we take up the question sessions?
Yes,
Sure,
Mr.
sir.
Sure.
Yeah, can we have the videos on for all the speakers? At least this gives me a little bit of comfort level rather than looking at the blank screen.
Well said.
Okay. I have got the first question I have received is from Mr. Kushal Rawal. This is a wonderful presentation from Ravi, sir. Mr. Ravi, this question is directly addressed to you. Can you please throw some light on the probable hurdles that you anticipate in leading and managing the change in the current automation industry as we move more and more from traditional controls and measurement to more digitization, mobility, big data analytics, AI, MI, etc. The current human resources has a deficit and not that easy to be trained. And there is a new breed of engineers who are more future ready. How do you think we can motivate the existing crew's inertia on development to meet the ever rapid changing technological environment?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, Kushal. And that is the challenge that the industry is facing right now. On one side, if you see, we have got Mr. Rajiv Gupta was talking at length about how difficult it is, to really do the job completely remote and without, having a face-to-face interaction. This is the nature of the job itself. You need to have, when you're looking at industrial automation, uh, you have got certain content which has to be done only face to face. We always, most of us, we are here, we are all past 50 or around that age. We always used to tell that, oh, either you pick up the phone and talk. If it doesn't work, go meet up and face to face. You can resolve these issues, within no time. Whiteboard marker, and then you do all this kind of stuff. You don't need to have lengthy emails getting exchanged, and problem gets addressed. So this is on one side of the talent pool that we are having, which has got rich experience on the field and what it demands to take the job done. Another set of talents who are coming into the stream, they all have grown up with mobile phones. They all think that over a chat and then exchanging some kind of notes, the problems can be addressed. So in my thinking, the pandemic has given a huge impetus towards bridging these two things. Otherwise, I don't think there could have been, I would say, a force multiplier into adopting these kind of digital technologies. So this is an opportunity that the pandemic has posed to really, churn out the thought process. Data science is very, very powerful, extremely powerful. As we are now seeing elections in multiple states, it's a war of perceptions which have been created by a lot of data management companies who have been throwing up with very kind of I would say the perceptions of the voter and stuff like that. So that's the power of the data science. So the data science, we have to become as a centerpiece. In this is my view how I'm looking at it, right? The data science is going to become a very important tool in terms of understanding the people, the skills, the work in itself. You've got a lot of past data which is collected there. We have got a huge amount of people related, the skills and technology related information in addressing the job needs. So this should become the starting point for you to really evolve a model with which kind of jobs have to be necessarily done in a particular fashion. You have to redefine this kind of models with which you are going to really arrive at a work. Everything we don't have to go onto the site and face to face. Everything we don't have to be working from remote. So what is that everything, and what is that anything, and what is that something? This is where the data science is going to give you a good insight. And then the experience have to be pulled in, which is another data science factor, and bring in the skill sets of the new people who are coming into picture and form these kind of, I would say, human data models. I'm talking a lot with respect to data science because this is how it is going to be in future. When you are going to look at a job, you are not going to be really looking at like the olden days. Okay, can Ravi do this? Can Mr. Raman do that? I think Subba Rao has done it. I think we can send him to the site. I think that unlearning has to happen. Can we pick up this data model? Now, this data model for a polypropylene plant, this data model for a cracker unit, like that kind of a data models will evolve. It's just a beginning. So it's a huge interesting area, huge interesting area. So you need to have a paradigm shift. Not that, all the old people are against gadgets and data, right? So not that, every youngster, he relies only on the data and he doesn't want to meet up with the people. So that's a beauty of the, creation. So we need to have whoever is going to succeed in coming up with that right combination. He will come up with his own IP on how he can advise companies on how to come up with data models. That's another business area for somebody to really look at. So this is how I see it.
Thank you very much, Ravi. Thank you. Now I got another question from Mr. Arif. How can IoT help in automation manufacturing sector? Also, can you give some examples? I think Mr. Subba Rao should be in a right position to answer this question.
Thanks, Mr. Raman. I hope I'll bring in some light on the subject. Yeah. As I briefly mentioned, also I think the other speakers, Mr. Gupta and Mr. RamaRao, Mr. Ravi also mentioned about it. It's all about data. Now, when you look at manufacturing today, it has access to data, but at best it is discrete data, and it is not much. Now, let me give you an example of a simple process industry. What we have, let's say, a cement industry. We have a lot of them in India. Now, if you want to, why do I quote this? The course of my discussions on digital and automation, I've met with many senior industry leaders. So I met with one CEO of a cement plant who said, what can you do for us? And then it was the usual talk about how we can improve productivity and then how he can gain more out of it. He listened to me and then he sort of smiled and then said, look, this is not what I expect from you. So what is it, sir? He says, look, I know it, and perhaps you know it, that productivity improvement is a must. Now, when I look at it, you would possibly suggest that I improve productivity to meet the industry benchmarks. But he said, look, I also know that the industry benchmarks that we have today is not correct. It is nowhere near what we can actually be achieving. And they are low because that's the best that we can have under the constraints. And what is a constraint? I cannot look at any of my machinery today, any of my manufacturing process on a continuous basis. I have access to data, but that is at best only discrete data, which comes to me once in half an hour or once in an hour or sometimes even a day. That makes sense, but it is not at all making complete sense. So can you, through your digital, so-called digital technologies, access data on a continuous basis, all the data and that much more data, maybe 10 times what I have, and make sense so that I can improve benchmarks. I can improve. He says, I'm convinced that the benchmarks that I have today can be improved by at least 10 to 20%, at least. So what does that mean? When you think about it, this is what it is. Like any improvements that you have to make, anything that you have to get more, depends on understanding what you have today. And if that understanding is clear, then the steps that you can take for improvement also is that much more clear. But if your understanding is limited, then the steps that you're going to take is also not going to give you that result that it should actually come out. So when I say this, and then look at what are the possibilities. Today, you can have sensors almost on anything in your manufacturing plant. You can have sensors that can continuously measure vibrations, continuously measure heat, impact, pressure, anything that you have on any part of a machinery. Now, with that, additionally, as I said earlier, you can store all this data, even though they are continuously generated. You have the capacity, storage of data has become that much cheaper that you can, store huge amounts of data today. And with that data, the possibilities of looking at improvements, safety, energy efficiency, productivity improvement is that, it sort of is exponential, because on the other hand, with this data, you just feed in this data into your AI models or your machine learning models, which has already so much of data, that the results that this can give for improvements is incredible. So IoT by itself, what does it mean? It means that you can you can sense and collect data as per your wish and store it and do whatever you want with that as inferences. So that by itself would be a fantastic tool for us to look at anything for improvements, including, I mean, as you said, manufacturing. Why manufacturing? You could continuously monitor your pulse. You could continuously monitor your heart rate to improve your health. So anything can be improved here. And the manufacturing also, I would say, has huge potential to be improved. Earlier, possibly we were looking at electronics to give us these signals. Today, anything, chemical, mechanical, any part of the industry, manufacturing industry can give us these continuous information based on which we can make the improvements. So that's my view on this, Mr. Raman.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
for
much.
The question.
Thank you, Mr. Subba. Now, I have got a question directly from my side to Mr. Rajiv Gupta. I am from a consultancy background, so I think you are the right man to answer my question. Gupta Sahab, these days we talk about virtual teams sitting in the house, work from home, etc. But essentially, when we talk about engineering, when you take about, as soon as we get a project, we form a team. Now, the question is, how do we retain the team spirit? Because many times what happens is, if you take the case of an instrument guy going to the process guy's table, getting the process data, there will be argument. He will say, I want so much pressure drop. You will say it is not possible. So you have a lot of continuous debates which are going on when you work hand in hand, which may not be possible when we are working on a remote. Second thing, now we talk about lot of data on a server. Now the question is, when you do the modeling, when we do a 3D modeling using SP3D or PDMS or anything, the volume of data is so high, or the data file is so large, which is very difficult for somebody to sit at home and extract the data and work on that. So what would be your call on these 2 points?
Yeah, very relevant. Actually, I was trying to say also, see, to our mind, it is the hybrid mode only which can work. Like you see, the first thing is, like I said, a lot of things are left in my office. Suddenly there is a lockdown. So how do I get those things? Right. Okay, people take the servers in remote operation, then access on internet. But you see, I can tell from first-hand experience, and Mr. Raman will agree, if I have got a big drawing of equipment layout, correct, how can I see on my computer?
Correct.
No way. Not only that, what I do usually, I do my design based on some inputs which I received from some other people.
Correct.
And let's say I float an inquiry for a quotation, which say some manufacturers have quoted. So I look at their offer or some schematics or designs which they have given, I compare it. So now when I am making my data sheet, I am looking at process data, I am looking at piping drawing, I am looking at building drawing, then I am making my data sheet. Now, no human can have that kind of intelligence or infrastructure at home to have 4 or 5 screens available simultaneously. He can see all. So that is why, what I personally feel that, okay, suppose I go to office twice a week, suppose. Okay. I organize this kind of things. And as you said, whatever doubts I had, I made some data sheets. I tried what are the problems coming in doing it, whom I need to discuss. If I happen to be a working level person, maybe I've never done it. So I see how others have made it. After that, probably I can now prepare myself that, look, say 60-70% of the things now I can do remote. It doesn't matter. I am doing my work Whenever I do, it will be done. So that is what we always feel. Same thing I mentioned about the factory testing, say a FAT we do for DCS systems.
Right.
Now, we cannot get at the site as many people as we would love to have.
Correct.
We may need other OEMs, we may need manufacturers specialists, we may need our operation people, maintenance people, engineering people. So now hybrid mode is best. I will send my core team to the manufacturer. Maybe they can do physical verification. Some of them can look at directly, and rest of them are connected through our VC and all that, and they can contribute in a limited way. Same thing when I am developing my DCS systems, I am doing my graphic development, logic development. Again, the same issue. A
Correct.
manufacturer is developing the document. A consultant has given him a logic diagram. As long as it is normal, he is just transporting it or shifting it is
Yes.
fine. If he
Correct.
gets into some problem, maybe a one person cannot even resolve his problem. Maybe it is the operation person. Maybe it is a mechanical guy who has this idea. If he
Correct.
gets it out. So
Correct.
then I use again this model that look through me, I will connect to the right person. So I would say that I think hybrid is the best. It will take care of our psychological needs as well as the professional needs. And it will help in overall, maximization of productivity.
Very good. Very good. Thank you very much, Gupta sir. Thank you. Now I got a question from Mr. Vivek Gupta. What are the views on skilling and using the existing manpower who know the process in depth and data science as important for data analytics than recruiting outside person to lead digital transformation? I think this both Ravi and Subbarao can think over it, and you can give the answer on that. It seems to be a bit tricky question, but it's quite an interesting one.
Yeah. So because it's tricky, I would allow Ravi to go in first.
Ravi, you are not audible. Ravi, you are not audible.
No, I was saying, since I was on mute, my dialogue was played by Subba.
No, it is better to answer in mute so that you are answered.
See, again, actually, Mr. Raman, your question and Mr. Rajiv Gupta's answer, I think, that also can funnel into this particular question. Okay. So he is asking about how this rich experience needs to be tapped and how the data science, to be introduced. Actually, what Mr. Rajiv Gupta told is vast, is 3.5 decades of experience. He just like that he mentioned it, right? Only people who have got an experience seeing a plant and looking at all these P and ID diagrams and then the complexities will be able to appreciate that splendid answer what he gave. So this is the expertise on one side. Now, what happens in a real-time world? You pick up an MMI, usually which is done by some operation expert in consultation with a DCS expert, and a template gets evolved for a particular plant and from a particular technology provider. You got the processes are more or less 70-80% they remain the same. If Uday is giving a technology, if EIL is providing the technology, or Technip is providing the technology, you have got pretty much their plant. If it is a polymer plant, this is their process. About 60-70% of that remains more or less the same. It's not going to change much. All these things are wealth and loads and tons of information, which.
So you mean to say it is a part of the standardization drive?
It can become a huge data pile. Now what happens in a conventional world, we have got experienced hands who store it in their brains, and then their experience, they can just like that, they can pick it up and then they can form the team and decipher that in a form, put it into a form that teams can decipher and the work moves on. Now this much amount of wealth of knowledge, first you need to put it into a data bank in a structured data. then how these kind of a talent pool can be. These are the expert systems. Now, Mr. Rajiv Gupta said that, when I have got somebody coming on to me and I have got a problem, whom should I go and refer to? So if there is going to be a problem here, like a chat box, you got a chat bot who will come and then it will open up and say that, hey, are you stuck here? Perhaps, you go to Mr. Raman. Are you stuck here? You please go to Mr. Subba. You are stuck here. I am also stuck here. You need to call the team. Some such kind of messages can come. It's a huge opportunity. Huge opportunity. If you really look at it, maybe 5-10 years down the lane, I think, the instrumentation, the automation control industry is going to hugely benefit it because of this. Because we have got so much of things, collaboration happening. And so much of expertise is available. And to bring them onto a single platform is humongously impossible. But data science can do that.
Thank you very much, Ravi.
I can give an example, actually, like people were requesting for example, like say, we can take even from medical field. Suppose there is no digitization.
Correct.
You want to get say X-ray done. So first you have to go to the X-ray clinic, find out when it can be done. Then you take the patient to the place, you get the X-ray done, pay the money. Then they will say, okay, you now take the report on such and such date, you go there. Even if everything happens in one go as planned, so many visits you are having. Now, same is true for my industry also. Like when I am operating the pumps, say a big industry, so many critical equipments, we are having all kind of diagnostics into the control room, but non-critical I don't have. Now, once in a while, this non-critical is also going to fail.
Correct.
So what will happen? In fact, we have a procedure that an operator goes out, looks at, or maintenance personnel goes out, looks around a lot of non-critical equipments and note down the status. Now, all these things by IIoT, it can be done. Now, few people can say, what is the difference then in control system and IIoT system? So, reliability of control system is more. So, critical things I am doing there. But now, using these extra sensors, I am putting now in my non-critical machines. Earlier, I used to leave only, say, a slot to put a temporary probe, take an analysis, record it somewhere. Now, all these things have been automated because you have now the digital transmission, digital sensors, huge possibilities. So that way, I would say that this is the way it is helping in personal field as well as everywhere else.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Like we old timers would say, "Garmi hai, thandak hai," but my daughter will say 35 degree.
Correct.
Yeah, yaar, 15 degree ho gaya itni jaldi. So their concept has changed, you see.
Correct.
They will
Absolutely.
talk about data because now they are used to that. Now, what is the temperature? They will look at the mobile. Okay, this app, that app, it will tell you the temperature.
Correct.
It
Absolutely.
will tell you the rain. They will not talk about rainy day. They will say so many rain ho gaya. Like, so that probably we have to bring. I think that is where it is.
Correct. Mr. Nandkumar, sir, I have got a very interesting question from an anonymous attendee. There are two questions posed by him. One is, what are the areas of digital transformation MSME and SMEs need to focus on? This is the first question. And second is, what are the biggest barriers to digital transformation and how to overcome it?
The first question, what are the areas where MSMEs has to focus on digitization? I would say the first is, of course, on the supply chain management. They have to look at it. When I'm looking at supply chain management, I look at MSMEs which are standalone, not on ancillary basis. The supply chain management has to be focused for MSMEs to ensure that the product is delivered on time, on required quality, and also available service on time. So that's one of the focus area. And then depending upon the manufacturing operations, the shop floor movement can be automated, which is a discrete measurements, also discrete instrumentation can be done. The shop floor areas, the material handling in the shop floor, which also can be done either on the first phase, depending upon the input required, or on the second phase, depending upon the complexity of the manufacturing operations. I would say for MSME, this is most important as far as the manufacturing industry is concerned. I'm saying from the point of view engineering industries. When it comes to continuous process industries in MSME, of course, the supply chain is very, very important. And coupled with that, the manufacturing operations, again, it is whether it is a batch process or a continuous process. If it is a batch process, it is not much of the digitization, which is because it can also be certainly looked at on a digitization of the batch process. But of course, in a continuous process, much more digitization can be done in the small scale industries. What is the other question which you are mentioning, which Mr. Raman?
Barriers.
What are the barriers for digital transformation?
One of the biggest barrier in MSME is the skills itself, because conventionally they are all if you look at an engineering industry, they are I would say either SSLC or an NCTVT qualified. So we'll have to enhance their basic education through I would say in-house training to get into a basic digitization program. I mentioned in my introduction speech, the Skill Council, Capital Goods Skill Council has introduced a training program starting with L1 to L10. Under the L1 to L3 is primarily for SSLC or either IIT people who are, but they have to be educated to digitization, means from L4 onwards, the proper training also. So it's a question what the barrier is to get into people. First is awareness, then encourage and interested into the digital process. So that's one area where when we look at the employment, as you said, as I also said, is genesis earlier when we had administration personnel. So that also from the organization point of view, we have to change from the concept of personal management, HR management, administration management to everything encompassing digital talent management. It is very difficult for an organization, MSME, to imbibe, but there is a lot of focus on cluster-based program for MSMEs. So in a cluster, there could be a service provider who can provide all the digitization process. That will help us. So to some extent, that can be overcome by these cluster-based approach on the small-scale industries, or to some extent, the medium, of course, they have their own wherewithal to sustain the requirements. But on the small scale, is cluster-based approach is required on the digital. So the barrier is primarily in terms of the one, of course, is the money. Most of the small-scale industries have a negative cash flow, and especially on the engineering industry, not on the continuous process or a batch process. So it's a question of how do they build the positive cash flow with digitization, which of course we are taking up also with the banks as well as the financing institutions to ensure that on a continuous basis, the capability of the small and medium sector has to be brought up, for which they need to be either by way of the cost of money coming down or by way of special grant to provide digitization, which will certainly come, maybe not this year, coming next year will certainly come some incentivization. Coupled with that, there are a lot of platforms being done by various industry associations like FICCI, ASSOCHAM, CII, or PhD, CCI, etc., in order to bring up across. Even in South India, quite a lot of South Indian Chamber of Commerce is running a very special program on the digitization. So those areas which we need to get these small and medium sector into these platforms. That's where industry association has to make them, to attract them to get into and make them aware that by doing digitization, we are not reducing the employment. On the contrary, we are improving their profitability. With that get into, I am sure that barrier which will be there in the small scale will certainly vanish. That's my take on this.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Mr. Raman,
Mr.
if I
Subba,
can
please.
add, I mean, it's a sort of building upon what Mr. Nandkumar mentioned last. I think digitalization today, we can safely say it's not a technology barrier that we see, but it's more of a people and culture barrier. I don't think technology can be a barrier for many, many years. We are far ahead, and that would suffice for maybe 10 to 15 years. But if you're talking about, in general, industries' adoption of digital, it's going to be connected with the culture and the readiness of the people to accept and adopt digitalization. And you add on to another discussion that we had in the same forum about people, experienced people with huge amount of domain knowledge. How do they see it? I think it takes a lot of convincing them to adopt the digital technology. Not that it's a big mental challenge for them, but it's a matter of culture. That I have been used to work like this for many years. Why should I do it in a different way? Now, like what Mr. Nandkumar also mentioned, it is now the job of most of the organizations to convince its people on the benefits of digitalization and how they are not going to lose anything, but they have everything to gain in case they adopt it. That, I think, would do a lot of good service for the industry. And that is, to me, but also as suggested by a huge number of studies, I think that is the single largest barrier in today's world. It is the people, culture, and their level of acceptance that exists.
Thank you very much. Thank you. See, now I got a very interesting question. After going through all the presentation by all of you as experts, this question seems to be a real challenge. And I think whoever is would be interested in talking on this subject is welcome. See, the question is from Mr. Subba. He says that nowadays we, that is in the Indian institutional consumers, are moving from import latest technology to collaborative innovation mindset. While reaping the benefit of it, what are the key measures in terms of talent management we need to consider so that we can avoid going back to import all situation?
Yeah, I can say something. I think everybody will have to say. Because
Yeah,
like say, I can say as a EIL or as a oil sector companies, we are now encouraging the innovation in the sense that we may be branded by many that we always want PTRs and things like that. So how, if somebody has already supplied, then only he can get into our systems. Maybe it was because of hydrocarbon industries and safety concerns and all that. But now we are having under our R&D, we are running also the Startup India program, where we have an expert committee, and every year we have a budget to finance certain incubation projects and certain projects from incubation to less than commercial scale. And then of course, ultimate is the financial commercial production. Right. So this thing is there, and we have a collaboration with the IITs. IITs have incubation centers. They shortlist the potential candidates. They send to us the project details. Then we organize presentations for them. Every year it happens. And it is advertised as well, because there are all, and it is driven by the government of India. So not only EIL, most of the companies are doing. ONGC, IOCL, EIL. So now this is a good opportunity for students who are graduating or just finished their education. They can, because in their institute, they have the incubation centers. And they have, what you call the imaginations more than what we have. So definitely they can look at the frontiers. And we do come across, many good innovations, especially in terms of, environment-friendly movements and the technology for social use. And say wastewater treatment, or say your fog, smoke towers and things like that. People are really coming up with good ideas, like, treating the waste, solid waste, because it's a big problem. So how to do that? And I find that a lot of youngsters are coming up with ideas, even say water maker, water generator. So how to generate water from the atmospheric moisture. So in fact, we promoted one, you supply in EIL itself. So I can tell people that yes, innovations are being seen now very positively, and they are being encouraged. And right from our Prime Minister down to us, I mean, we really believe that yes, we can do. We are comparable to the best. Good. Even the so-called Make in India does not mean that you cut every import. You see, this is again very interesting, because you cannot also operate in a silo. Import all is bad, but import nothing is equally bad, because you can't overnight generate everything. There could be various regions, like the things you don't have and without whom you can't do immediately. So again, you take a collaborative approach rather than importing the everything. You import once maybe, but also collaborate so that in future it can be done in India. Excellent. Mr. Nandkumar is very much aware. We have partnered in many such things.
Correct.
So it's a journey, because it happens for everybody, consultants, end users, and suppliers and the integrators. Is a total chain in which slowly the integration, indigenization will increase.
Right.
See, Mr. Raman, my thoughts on this. I always believe that all these organizations, EAL and various other organizations in India, they have done exceptional work, frugal engineering, innovation. There are many examples. But the pain point is we never attached importance to make that as an IP, which is where we fall short. Okay, so this IP as an IP culture, this leadership should drive in organizations. It is not that we are below anybody or we are so superior to a lot of other people. We are actually good to be in a pragmatic sense, but we are not documenting. We are not able to scientifically, registering those kind of patents in our names, which can become a technology enablement with some small startup companies. So that thread has to come. Domain expertise is with us. EAL has done some exceptional works. From that, how much we can make it into an IP. Then how this can be made into a scalable, repeatable business model with that IP. This is where the chain, we are missing high time.
Mr. Raman, if you look back, since independence up to 1991, we had a controlled economy. At that time, focus was on indigenization, and even when we have a collaboration, it was based on a phased manufacturing program, starting from maybe 10% up to go to 85% over a period of 8 years and pay royalty or a license fee. Since opening up the economy in 1992, and with the current government, the system has entirely changed. They are not looking at only an indigenization. They are also looking at value creation in the country. You can import and then produce the product and supply worldwide. And in that process, what government is now looking at various collaborative agreements with governments, like some countries, they are making preferential trade agreements, with some countries free trade agreements, and in some areas comprehensive economic partnership agreements. This is all being worked out across the world with a lot of technology companies. So I'm sure in the coming areas, the pitfalls what was there earlier will be removed, and it will be technology also development will be there, because both the technology licensor as well as the indigenization company will look for a global opportunities, and both of them recognize that they have to be competitive in the global market. Even now, in fact, DHI was asking questions about Canada-India economic partnership agreements, how process plans can do much more better than what we'll do. So I would say in the coming years, it will be these issues which they have faced will be certainly overcome by the initiatives from country to country agreement, region to region agreement, or particular area to regional agreements, etc. So in the coming areas, I am sure that will be technology. IPR also is a very important aspect will be developed here. For that, government also is giving quite a lot of impetus, because everybody recognizes that continuous innovation is a must to get competitiveness across the world. So that is even for Indian manufacturers are recognized. So they need to have continuous innovation. Otherwise, they can't sell a product, and because technology changes and the regulatory framework changes, environment and sustainability requirements changes. It will certainly be in the coming years a collaborative approach. That's my take on that, Raman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are having very interesting discussion, but I am also having shortage of time. Jyoti, do you think that can I take one more question?
Yes, sir. Please, sir. You can
take one last question, though I got another 6-7 questions.
Yes, there are 12 questions still.
Yeah, I got a question from Mr. Viresha. The digital era is getting more and more dependent on internet and similar technologies. On the other hand, we are moving towards inferior industry from distributed to diversified industry. I mean, to be honest with you, I couldn't understand the question itself, but probably I am lost. Do you make anything on this?
distributed to diversified industries.
But in what way that has become an inferior, I don't know. So according to me, yes, we are heavily dependent on internet. And the question is, as we all know that when we talk about the internet, we are talking about a lot of transmitting the data, etc. So cyber security plays a vital role in all these things. But in what way we are moving towards inferior industry, I'm still lost on that question. So I think we can ignore this question, and I would like to go to one question which is one question. The last question is: what are the views on skilling and using existing manpower who knows the process in depth with the data science, as compared to recruiting a person from outside?
I take that. Mr. Raman,
Yeah.
is it to any specific speaker or?
Yeah, this has come from.
No, it's an open question to anybody.
No, yeah, it's an open question. It
Yeah.
has come from
No.
one of the delegates who has participated in this.
Yeah, no, I think this has been sort of touched upon earlier also in a couple of questions, and also a couple of speakers spoke about it. I think it's again related to how the companies have a policy to handle this problem, because if not handled correctly, I think this can become a huge problem which can backfire. But if handled correctly, it can become a big asset for any company, in the sense that we are looking at very different sort of pools of manpower today. On one hand, we have the experienced domain, knowledgeable pool of people. On the other hand, we have the people who are experienced on the digital side, and the connection, the overlap between these two is very minute these days. It's very small. So I think every company will have to then recognize that this can be an issue and work towards increasing the overlap between these two competencies. I would say that is the single most important thing. And I dovetail it into my past comment about culture and people. And in this way, we can also get both the types, if I can call, of people, the experienced domain guys and the latest digital guys to be working together. And if you do not manage to do this in the next 5 to 10 years, let's say, I think there's a lot of amount of knowledge that we stand to lose in today's industry. And once it is lost, it's not accessible again. So if you do not look at this problem, then maybe in the next 10 years, you will have huge digitally fantastic processes and tools, but without a lot of content. So the content thing needs to be filled up. And that's where I think the culture has to be created, where people with the domain knowledge are confident to say that, look, I will share what I know so that I get benefited and the future gets benefited. And the new guys who come in a little bit of, I would say even some of them come with a little bit of arrogance, they should understand that what these guys have gained over many decades is something which is so profound that if they don't capture it, they can have all the digital solutions, but the content can be almost nothing and nobody stands to gain. So if we do not address this, it's a very important subject, we can be in trouble, because people are going to retire. People with this sort of knowledge, they're going to just retire, and maybe, even without retirement, they may be incapable of passing on the knowledge. So sooner we capture it, sooner we incentivize the giving away of this experience and knowledge, the better for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Subba.
I mean, just to add to what Mr. Subba said, in Germany, there is an association for expert in services. In India, a lot of companies utilize their services for specialized field, maybe for 3 months or 4 months, and the government permits that you can get them. You need to don't even have to pay them salaries, but you need to take care of their expenditure. So the success of that expert in services, government has also recognized it in India. Both Niti Aayog and the skills development is already looking at building up a building up a pool of talented people who are available to the industry, especially for MSMEs. So they are already looking at on to making a pool of talented people, and I think it should come out soon. But a lot of work is going on in this direction, at least to get their experts, as Mr. Subba said, it is not died down. It's available at least for some time to the industry is required. I am sure that it will get through, maybe formalized, maybe in another couple of years' time. Government is already working on this.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I think we have got many more questions. I thank all the participants for sending the question. We will definitely reply back to you after taking the opinion from the experts. And I am really sorry to all the esteemed speakers and board members who are present over here for extending the time by extra 6 minutes on this very challenging topic. Now I would like to hand over the charge to Mr. Jyoti from IIOT Automation to take it forward.
Thank you, sir. And that was a very interactive Q&A session, I must say. So before we go on to the next session, that will be the next 7 minutes, I'd just like to run you through a short video on automation.
So our 5 trillion goal by 2024 is indeed the right aspiration for us as a country.
Automation is one of the few best automation exhibitions in the world.
The same technology which are going to change the world.
Innovative, bringing technology inside the country.
And Make in India concept is what we are looking to make India more actively progresses in digitalization. Everybody is excited.
Certain changes which are coming in Industry 4.0.
Remarkable. If you go to Germany to Hanover Fair, or you go to the big exhibitions like Akima in Germany, they are the best ones in the world. I can, with so much of pride, I can say that automation in India is at par, maybe people-wise even bigger.
We are launching these railway gauges in India. One more product that we have launched this time is a wireless gauge.
I think the standard of the quality is really fantastic.
We see a lot of
Tremendous effort to showcase the new technologies, innovations, and we could see a new blood coming in to the Automation Expo this time.
We feel very privileged. Make in India is a big movement and we are very proud to be a part of it. We have 4 in India and try and inculcate everything in India only.
Pretty exciting.
It's really great.
The experience is awesome.
It's a fabulous.
Really fantastic.
Amazing exhibition. Golden opportunity. Automation.
A good event. It's really awesome. Excellent crowd.
Quite positive.
So that was automation 2019. Now we move to automation 2021. So that was Automation Expo 2021, and we had a short presentation on what was 2019 and what we are going to see in 2021 as an exhibitor and why you should visit. And this is going to be the first physical exhibition on automation and instrumentation after the COVID. And we invite all of you exhibitors, visitors, delegates, do participate. And with the onset of the COVID and the exhibitions that have started, so there will be a lot of SOPs that we will follow, and visitor registration is mandatory. And we look forward to seeing all of you at the Automation Expo. Now, before we end the seminar, I'd like to thank you all, sir. I'd like to thank our speakers, Dr. Nandkumar, Mr. Ravi RamaRao, Mr. Subba Rao, and Mr. Rajiv Gupta. I'd like to thank, and Dr. VP Raman, all of you, fantastic job. I'm sure, you know, it was a beautiful, not beautiful, such an interesting, interactive conversation that we've had. And this is the first time that our Q&As have gone beyond our expected time. And it was very interactive. I'm sure you had some challenging questions, and I have still 8 questions that have to be answered, which I'm going to share it to you all privately, which you can send it to me, and I will forward it to our attendees. So at this time, this is the last of the first season of our future webinar series. We started this future webinar series on 25th of November with the first on application on AI industrial manufacturing, and every month we had the webinars. So this comes to the conclusion of the series 1 of this future webinar series, and we will be coming up with new webinars with new series shortly. At this time, I'd like to first thank all our board of governors. All of you are such a support to us. In all our webinars, we have had our board of governors. In most of our webinars, our board of governors have been speakers, starting with Mr. Singhal, Ms. Prema Suresh, Mr. Sharad Joshi. We had, and today we have 2 of our board of governors, Mr. Subba Rao as well as Mr. Rajiv Gupta. And we want Dr. Nandkumar also. But all this was possible, you know, I am just a front end here of it. This is all possible, all because of our steering committee. I have actually taken all of their weekends, which we have spent every fortnight, that we have talked about what to do at automation, because this last year 2020 was a gap and what we should do. So they came up with, we all came up with the idea of the future webinar, the topics, and even the selection of the speakers and how we should do it. So I must say a big cheers to and big thanks to our steering committee, Dr. Mehta, Dr. Kirtisha, Dr. Keyur Vora, Dr. Neeraj Agarwal, Sivram sir, Dr. Tampi Matthew, and Dr. VP Raman. Thanks to all of you. And I take leave of this webinar now, and for future updates, please log on to www.automationindiaexpo.com, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I can only say that we enjoyed it as much as it was.
Thank you very much, sir.
Company and everything we enjoyed really.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.